everybody? Welcome back to Game 2 of Omega Gaming Silence versus the Akuma Katanas. If you're just joining us, Akuma Katanas was able to take Game 1 from the red side, going to be on the blue side this game. I'm Gordo, joined once again by Rudude.
Yeah, exactly. Super excited to get back underway with this series because game number one was very close. Even though the neutral objectives didn't speak to that, it was, gold lead pretty much consistently held by silence until the soul was able to be picked up. And once that soul was achieved, there really didn't feel like once the team fights had started properly, there was any coming back for Omega Gaming. Akuma did a really good job at closing out with those neutral buffs that they'd got for themselves.
Yeah, definitely was a huge game one out of Doubtful on Akuma on that Rengar pick. Going to be interested to see if we might see a ban for something like that coming in game two as a bit of an off meta pick. Maybe Silence hasn't played against as much, but certainly was able to be effective in that last game.
Yeah, it was, and it looks as though we're not going to get the Rengar band away. So it is open to Doubtful if he wants to take it here. With the Hecarim, Lucian, Akali bands, three very stable red side bands that have come through here. The Samira ban as well by Akuma, not actually on the red side, but feels like they're targeting Silence here. With the Ashe left open though, that is going to be the first pick here because obviously this is still a very strong champion. Yes, hasn't been favoured quite so much this patch with the rise of, other AD carries, but Ashe is still very highly contested and definitely top tier.
Yeah, Ash, a pick that Akuma actually banned on the red side last game, so clearly something that they think has incredible value as a blue side first pick. They're going to be picking that up for themselves after having denied it to Omega Gaming in game one. Let's see how they're able to execute on it as it's responded to with the Senna.
Yeah, so already, we're thinking that this Ashe Senna lane, just a sort of trade of these picks of the standard AD carries right now. The Caitlyn not picked up, um, for Omega Gaming here, which is slightly surprising. I felt like it did a lot of work here. Azuto was able to dominate and do a lot of pressure. So, I mean, they pick up the center instead. It's a fine pick. It's definitely going to do a different job, though, with the Shen lock in for Silence as well. Banjito has played this in the support role. Similarly, you have to imagine it can go up into the top lane as well.
Yeah, no, that's going to be the Senna Shen duo from Akuma last game, picked up by Omega Gaming Silence in game two. So we'll see if it's meant to be a bot lane duo from that side, or if they're going to be throwing the Shen into a different lane. But definitely going to be something these two teams treating as contested picks throughout this series.
Yeah, a lot of flexibility provided just with that Shen being able to go into, top or support role is
Yeah,
quite a
and that is
niche
going to be
pickup.
Nidalee, not Lilia, by the way,
Ah,
for
okay.
Akuma. There, they're saying in chat here that is intended to be a Nidalee pick, and should be treated as such. It's going to be therefore be a Nidalee Renekton top jungle duo
Oh,
coming out of Akuma. A lot of playing towards the top side, towards Bat Soup, who's going to be playing this very powerful lane dominant Crocodile.
yeah, this is this sort of new age Elise Renekton from way back when Elise was the power pick of the jungle. You just walk underneath and it's quite easy to execute on dives with this combo in the top side. Ruthless Predator just comes through. That stun going to connect onto whoever the top laner is, be it Shen, be it something else. And with the Nidalee Spear as well, the execute damage from a Nidalee is insane at all points during the game. So the dive's going to be really easy if they're able to push in and execute on it. The Skarner lock-in for Silence, something that has seen, smatterings of play constantly for probably the last sort of 3 or 4 months or so since he got a slight touch up. But I'll be interested to see how it works out versus this Nidalee, a very mobile jungler. And that's probably where Skarner falters the most. He's trying to catch onto this Nidalee if he's able to buy the space and play well around the hops. Could struggle for this Skarner a lot.
Yeah, I do like the Skarner as a pick into a lot of the heavier farming junglers. Feels like he can kind of just not avoid being punished as heavily as some of these farm to six junglers might be in previous seasons and in previous jungle metas. Hopefully, able to just kind of keep to himself, avoid Nidalee as much as possible until he gets that level six, and then going to be incredibly powerful with that Impale.
Exactly, and this is a similar style to the Rengar that had obviously piloted by different players, obviously different champions. But is that farm till six as you mentioned, and using the Skarner ulti to have the full level of effectiveness is going to be quite strong here. Early on it doesn't appear that Silence have drafted themselves a particular damage threat. for this early game to pile onto the Skarner to do the damage. A lot of CC picked up. Obviously, the Senna has that root, the Shen has the taunt. So there's a lot of potential for Silence to lock one person in particular down. But at the minute, they're lacking that damage threat, the hard carry that's going to do them the damage through the early game.
A big supporter of the Silas ban coming out of Omega Gaming and realizing that Akuma just demonstrated that they're willing to play the Silas last game and that they have first rounded Senna, Shen, Skarner. Definitely going to be a good move to get that Silas off the table.
Exactly. So many amazing ults to be stolen. Definitely a warranted ban, especially with how proficient they looked on it in game number one. The Morgana coming through sort of suggests here, and 99% for me at least confirms that the Shen going into the top lane, the Morgana going into the support role. I've seen Banjito play this Morgana a numerous amount of times as well. There's always the small possibility that we see Morgana flexed into the mid lane, but I really doubt it, given just the datedness of Morgana as a mid laner.
Yeah, and that I expect to be a Lux support. The Morgana does do a lot of work to counter out Ashe, being able to prevent the Enchanted Crystal Arrow with her Black Shield. Being able to take a mage support like the Lux helps counter that out as she can use her magic damage to burst through the Black Shield and let Ashe get her slows and stuns as she wants. And it's going to be a LeBlanc blind pick mid for the side of Akuma. Let's see how Mad Show Gap responds.
Exactly, throwing down the gauntlet with the LeBlanc blind pick here. Syndra's still available, definitely a known counter to the LeBlanc, the scattered interrupting the distortion if they're quick enough on the fingers. Similarly, we've still got Lissandra open, does a similar job in terms of shutting down the LeBlanc. We'll have to see what Silence go for here. Macho has his pick of the litter in terms of mid lane, has only really seen the Akali and the Silas taken away, but he's just going to
Ooh.
anti-fund the LeBlanc here. And opt for what you'd have to assume is maybe a set mid lane. But we could
This is
also
a
see.
serious competitive game, Dude. Sometimes you just gotta muscle down and you gotta pick the set mid lane. You're gonna play the tank for your teammates, and you're gonna realize that Omega Gaming Silence's comp does no damage.
Yeah, I okay, so I want to, throw out the possibility here that we have a Morgana mid lane. Because Morgana actually does fairly well. He's able to sustain a LeBlanc lane, I will say. The LeBlanc still has a lot of potential to make things happen and make roams occur. But there is still the smallest chance that Morgana, with that magic damage shield, is able to neutralize the LeBlanc lane. Um, and with Shen and Set both viable in top or support, so there's the option for either of them to go either place. I expect the Morgana to be a support, but there's a chance that they flex it to the mid lane because the mid lane matchup isn't horrendous for a Morgana either.
Yeah, and even with a Morgana full AP mid lane, though, it doesn't end up working as a primary
Hmm.
damage dealer. So unless we're seeing Triforce Skarner here, I'm really struggling to see how Omega Gaming Silence is really gonna ever be able to eat through all these Lux shields, through the Nidalee heals, through the kiting of Ashe, and is gonna be able to kill Renekton at all.
Exactly, they're really relying on sort of bruiser style damage, and then on top of just a massive late game Senna is what you have to imagine they're going for here, because the Senna is really the only consistent DPS that they have, and Senna probably one of the worst ADCs in terms of consistent DPS with the slow wind up on the auto attacks and things like that. Obviously hits like an absolute truck when they do go off. But they need to get to that point to get the Senna that far ahead. You can see on Akuma's squad just a ton of early game power, and I don't know that Silence have the tools to combat that.
Yeah, Silence definitely going to be short on in the burst department. You want to be able to lock people down with all your different CC abilities, with your Showstopper, with your Impale, with your Shenton, but it's going to be so difficult when they aren't able to instantaneously produce huge levels of damage, especially on the levels of something like Renekton, a Lux, a LeBlanc, and some of these other picks that we're going to be seeing on Akuma's side.
Yeah, Nidalee as well, just another burst champion to consistently pump out annoying poke or just a potential one shot here onto the Senna or maybe even the Morgana if they do misstep a little bit. And then just to top it all off, they have Akuma, they have Ashe rather, who's going to be able to build that Blade of the Ruin King with the Runeance Hurricane as well. With 3 melee champions, he's going to get an insane amount of value from that 2 item combo. The Skarner, the Shen, and the Set, you have to imagine, are all going to be building heavy in the HP department and probably in some armor as well. So Blade of the Ruin King and Runa's going to have some insane value in this game.
Yeah. All right, Rudude. So take your bet. Is it going to be the Morgana mid lane or is it going to be the set mid lane? What do you think's more likely?
Oh, I don't know. My gut says Morgana mid lane, but then I look and I think Mad Show on Morgana. Maybe not. I'm gonna say mid lane though. I think it's Morgana mid. My gut's telling me. I don't know why, but that's what I'm going for.
All right. In a way, that does kind of next level the Lux support. I don't know how the Lux in the set matchup goes as far as supports go, but I feel like it's one of those champions, no real innate mobility abilities. Set's going to be able to run forward with his movement speed boosts, with his Swifty boots that he's going to end up building. Going to suck the Lux back into the minion wave, able to do a lot of damage to it. Going to be a favorable bot lane if they do go ahead with that.
Well, here we see, moving into the in-game draft in the in-game client here, the set actually locked in for the top lane, and Macho locks the Morgana here. So
We've been next leveled
we've
yet again, Rudude.
it's the
It's the set
Shen,
top lane with the Shen support. How could we be so foolish?
the triple flex, coming through once again. They lock in the Shen and then they lock in the Morgana to go, okay, it's actually a Shen top this game. And then they go, nope, never mind. We're going to pick another top laner that can flex to support, and they're going to put that there instead. So, hey, the set going to be picked up in the top lane, and with that Shen, similar situation to how the set wants to play. Doesn't pull the Lux into the minion wave, more so dives in and roots the Lux in a dangerous position. We'll have to see if we get any swaps here. A minute left before champions are fully locked, but this is, to all intents and purposes here, early on with this 50-second countdown, actually going to be Mad Show Morgana, and this mid lane matchup should be very uninteresting to watch, but definitely should shut down the LeBlanc.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be the same story in bot lane, whether it's going to be the Shen or the set support, is does kind of nullify the Lux, which was likely intended as a counter pick to the Morgana. It is going to be effective in that lane, but it's also going to be the same story in the top lane. The Renekton is a favorable lane matchup into the Shen, but the set matchup is not that much better with Renekton's W ability now shredding shields. That's going to be a great way for him to tear right through the big haymaker that's going to be charged up by Set, be able to melt him right through that.
Exactly, and we talk about the potential of a top lane skirmish here, and the oh yes, Renekton shield damaging does a lot of help with this set, but when you think about top lane trading patterns here, it's very infrequent that Batsoup's going to dash on in and save his shield for when he's trying to trade up against Black Dog, right? Like, you typically want to use the W at the start of your trade to give yourself the favorable advantage and then get back out before the haymaker comes through. It's going to be in these later game extended extended skirmishes where they take a little bit longer, where they've got a couple of items and they've got the anti-healing, they've got the sustain from Blade of the Ruin King and things like that, where you start seeing two cycles of cooldowns come through, where this counter really comes to fruition and comes out to play. So I'd be interested to see how it goes later on, and it's going to be interesting because as we get later and later into this game, the Senna does scale well, and Azuto played really well in game number 1. But Morgana as a mid laner just doesn't have the damage that a LeBlanc will. And when I say the Morgana is to shut down the LeBlanc, I mean it's to not die to the LeBlanc, because LeBlanc is obviously an incredible lane bully, and whenever you pick it up, you really want to start snowballing. The reason that the Morgana is picked is probably just to neutralize it and keep it even, more so than anything. Morgana from level 5 onwards with 3 points in Tormented Soil is able to clear out the backline of minions and pretty much keep the LeBlanc in the lane if the Morgana isn't already far enough behind at that point.
Yeah, definitely excited to watch these two teams go at it for a second time. Will Akuma be able to win this series 2-0, or will Omega Gaming tie it up and bring us over to a game of 3? We will find out in a short bit. First, we're going to take a little break, get loaded into the game, get everybody all synchronized. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Game 2 of Omega Gaming Silence versus Akuma Katanas. I'm Gordo, joined once again by Rudude. Rudude, ready to see these team comps go at each other?
I am, and I'm super interested to see how it plays out because we've addressed some of the issues we have with Silence's draft and what we sort of fear to be the case in terms of the fact that they don't necessarily have the damage, right? You look across the board, they've got 3 tanks, a support flex to the mid laner, and then a Senna, right? Senna known to scale incredibly well, but they have to get there first of all for Omega Gaming. It's not going to be easy. And then we have
Yeah.
the opposite issue, really, for Akuma, where they have so much damage that we wonder, will they be able to tank out what little damage Silence are going to be producing in the early stages?
Yeah, and that is definitely going to be the gamble out of Silence here, is hoping that they are going to be able to just execute early on, get an early advantage for themselves out of the favorable matchups that they've achieved through this triple flex pick, and hope that they can just snowball that into taking down Akuma, knowing that they are never going to become especially tanky, only the Renekton even partially so, and hope that they're going to be able to just kind of ignore him, take out the other teammates, and still be able to get out the win.
Yeah, it's definitely a gamble from both sides here. That it makes for an interesting game, and it makes for something that should be entertaining to watch for not just us, but everybody at home as well. We like to point out, obviously, this glacial mid lane matchup here. Means that the Morgana even isn't going to be dealing the most damage that she would be doing with maybe a Comet or a Domination tree going through. Likely going to be opting for that Hextech GLP for those Twin Shadows, which as a build is cheap, but doesn't get you as much ability power.
Yeah, taking Glacial Augment on both carry picks in this game, Omega Gaming Silence definitely in the darkest timeline.
Exactly, and this mid lane matchup that we're seeing already. You know, I talked about the fact that it's more of a neutralizer as opposed to a winner, so to speak. You can already see early on that Klexo is trying to abuse the Morgana before this matchup becomes difficult.
Ooh, Benito going for an aggressive taunt under turret there, but not quite able to land it. Going to be once again traded back on as Deox and Soli taking an early push advantage in this lane.
Yeah, Ash with pretty much anything other than you know, when they're up against anything other than a Caitlyn, trying to establish priority, and Lux early on should be able to poke out at this Shen, at this Senna. Obviously the Piercing Darkness will be able to heal them up and sustain some of that damage through. But you can see that the Targon's coming through, the Steel Shoulder Guard rather, from Soli, means that it's going to be quite happy to generate income via last hitting minions and isn't too worried about trying to poke out Banjito or Azuto in necessary trades.
Yeah, and Doubtful has found Banky Kang doing his Gromp here as he goes in for the bottom scuttler here. Banky Kang knows that he cannot contest on that, so he's going to try to head over to the top lane. This might be a double scuttle out of Doubtful now that he knows where his lane opponent is, or jungle opponent rather.
Yeah, definitely could be. The Nidalee does have the early pressure versus the Skarner, and you can see both solo lanes being pushed by Akuma, so they have the ability to go for both of these crabs, and Doubtful definitely pinging his intentions to go for it.
Yeah, this is not what the situation Banky Kang wants to be in, is you do not want to be the same side of the jungle as your unfavorable matchup, because he's going to find you here and he's going to start dueling onto you as Banky Kang is already chunked down to half HP, going to have to flash out of there as he tries to aggressively go for the second scuttler, but is not able to compete for it.
Exactly, and it's to be expected, right? It's just, for me, that feels like a misplay from Banky Kang. He knows that his lanes don't have priority, especially in the top side, that Renekton had HP and had the push. You could make an argument for the mid lane that he was establishing priority, but, you know, Klexo sacrificed the priority in the first wave to be able to roam quicker. And now, without the flash on the Skarner, he's going to reach level 6 while that flash is still down, and the flash impales are not going to be fully serviceable so early on.
Yeah, Banky probably banking on the fact, no pun intended, that Doubtful might decide to just take the small pathing advantage that he achieves by finding Banky in his blue side jungle and disabling him from being able to get the crab, hoping that Doubtful is going to instead go over to his own Krugs and just take the farm advantage. But no, Doubtful wants it all, and he goes straight towards that top lane to try to contest for the second scuttler and is able to catch out Banky Kang and get even more for his trouble.
Yeah, and he's now got his, you know, he's spent such an amount of time investing in trying to see where Skarner was securing these double crabs, that his entire jungle is back up again. He's not yet recalled, has 35 CS, which is effectively 9 camps taken, so that's a full 6 on his side, along with the 2 crabs, and now cycling through the jungle again. He's making headway through this jungle with this Nidalee before even picking up any items.
Yeah, and he is picking up a CS advantage, but there is going to be a de facto advantage on the map for Banky Kang at this stage as he invades into the red jungle and starts taking away the birds. Because Doubtful hasn't recalled yet, Doubtful probably couldn't actually move too aggressively to contest Banky Kang on this invade, so he's going to be picking up this bird camp.
Yeah, and that's a nice deny, a nice takeaway really from Banky Kang there, you know, just sort of leveling up just a little bit of this jungle discrepancy here, trying to, you know, put some more advantages back in his pocket. But here in this mid lane, you can see that the issue with this, you know, matchup is that the Morgana pushes this wave pretty freely, and that allows Klexo to have control of the lane state. And the Drake gets taken by Silence, so that's already a step up, an improvement from game number 1, because, you know, this early game comp, but a fighting bot lane actually.
Yeah, and no, here they come in onto Deox and Soli, going to be throwing down the Spirit's Refuge in an attempt to keep themselves alive as Deox is taking a huge amount of damage here and backing away. Now, Mad Show going to be engaging onto Klexo here, trying to channel the full, the full chains out of Morgana, trying to deal as much damage as possible, but just going to be able to back out here, not dying to those Soul Shackles.
No, pops the passive, but nothing else from that. The Corrupting Potion along with the Dark Seal going to provide a lot of sustain for Klexo in this lane, so shouldn't feel too scared here, especially with Mad Show exhibiting a few mana issues at this moment in time. Obviously with Morgana mid lane, you know, the main push potential comes from your W, which at this stage still costs around 100 mana, so that's quite taxing when there are no items coming through to support that for the Morgana. A fight in the bot lane though, you know, first Predator usage from Banky burns all of the summoner spells in the bot lane, which now opens up for a bot lane gank as soon as Banky reaches level 6. The Predator is going to come back off cooldown, he's going to be able to essentially just run it in bot lane, and even if the taunt doesn't connect, should be able to find his way onto Soli or onto Deox, who don't have the summoner spells to get out from another gank like that.
Yeah, and Doubtful lurking around on the bot side of the map, trying to predict that as Banky Kang is heading back into the spot lane. As we predicted, he goes unseen and is able to sneak into the alcove here. Will he be able to come out and get an ultimate onto the spot lane? That's definitely what he wants. As he goes forward, he's going to be getting the ultimate right onto Deox. Hopefully gets the stun first, followed up by the suppression. Excellently played by Banky Kang. Going to be donating that kill over to Azudo. First blood goes to Omega Gaming.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted from this bot side. Oh, dive top maybe?
Yeah, that is going to be Batsup going in for this dive here, doing as much damage as possible, but going to get superplexed right away, tries to flash away, but gets hit by the auto after the flash. Black Dog blowing even more resources than necessary, and it's going to be Batsup tying up the kill scores at 1-1.
Yeah, Dominus popped and the dive in the top lane. Pretty flawless from Batsup in general, just outlaning him. Look at this CS discrepancy already in the top lane. Not only doubling, but more so than that. And Doubtful, you're in trouble. Oh no,
Mad Show potentially getting caught out here by Alexo, going to be able to prevent the chain with the black shield, but not the second chain, but the root, as they're just forced to stare at each other, not able to get into auto attack range, but Doubtful able to make up the difference, comes through and picks up Mad Show Gap.
Yeah, Flash Spear from Doubtful, once again using his flash to get himself in range for those jumping abilities here. Definitely a well-played 2 versus 1 on the top side of the map, and this this mid jungle 2v2 doesn't have a problem with dealing with the Morgana spell shield. You saw it right there that Klexo was able to burn the spell shield with one of his chains and then uses the ulti chain to keep the Morgana rooted, and unfortunately the flash wasn't able to create enough distance to get away from the tether from the root. So the Morgana just walks on in, faces the doom of 2 AP champions without a shield to help him, and this top side could be even more danger.
Yeah, no, Doubtful going to be coming up here to make the difference in top lane again. Black Dog already losing the 1v1, now in a 2v1, going to get picked up by Batsup again, falling even further behind as Batsup inches up towards a 40+ CS lead.
Yeah, and you know, you talked about it in the draft that this is a favourable matchup for the Renekton. Renekton in general just has the run of most lanes, and then versus this set as well, finding a lot of success. Working towards that Blade of the Ruin King early, is securing himself not 1 but 2 plates up on the top side without jungle assistance. If this Herald goes down, you have to feel like they could just use it top lane and break open the game.
And you got to call into question some build choices here from Black Dog as he goes for the early dive. Actually, there's a dive going on in bot lane. Get back to that in a little bit as Vanhito's trying to pick up Deox. Is going to be able to do so, but gets picked up by the turret on the other side. That's actually going to be the final spark coming in as the LeBlanc is trying to pick up some more kills. Mad Show Gap gets taken down by Klexo. Meanwhile, Bat Soup and Doubtful are diving onto Black Dog once again, looking to get a trifecta of kills onto this set as he tries to survive, but isn't able to do so. Doubtful going to be the one picking up the kill this time as Black Dog goes down yet again.
Yeah, that is the Renekton Nidalee combo coming through. Land the W stun from Renekton, use the spear, which can't really miss, and then the pounce on through is enough to take down the set. So far behind in this game so far, and this topside 2 versus 2 is now fully unleashed here. 2 turrets taken on the top side, which opens the Renekton to roam anywhere he wants. Banky Kang, though.
Deox going to be face-checking into Banky Kang here, who gets stunned up almost immediately, followed by the slowing smite, just going to be trying to stick onto him as long as possible, going to follow up with the ultimate at the end, you have to believe, but no. Soli is here, and there is no backup for Banky Kang. He's going to not waste the ultimate on a kill that he can't get, but is also not going to get that kill.
Yeah, and not expending the Impale, not a mistake by any means because he didn't have the damage. This is only a Balmy Cinder on the Skarner, you know, isn't this Captain Flowers Chad Skarner build that we'd see if it was the fabled play-by-play caster. But that means
no.
that
If there was a game for Chad Skarner, it'd be this game. Like,
yeah.
This is the game where you have no other damage sources. This is the game where you have 2 other frontliners and you have a Black Shield to put on yourself and a Senna to heal you up. If there was ever a time for Chad Skarner, now is the time. And even then, Banky Kang going for the safer, tankier build.
Yeah, he's now picked up
and
the
going to be finding onto Bat Soup here, just forcing him away. Going to be flashing on him, actually, and now just chasing even further. He's got the Spire for the movement speed, but now he's out of his own territory. Going to be picked up by the Blade of the Ruin King. Banky Kang trying to close this gap with the Predator. Going to be getting up there, gets the suppression onto him as he's stuck in the Q animation. Mad Show Gap coming up here, trying to land the Ethereal Chains, but not able to do so. That's going to be Soul Shackles. Ethereal Chain is LeBlanc E. There's too many chains in this game, Rudude.
There's too many routes. That's understandable. Don't get me wrong. There's both of them in this game as well, so it happens to the best of us. I mean, that double dash, the slice and dice, really nice positioning from the Renekton. You know, he was in a bit of a predicament. Takes just a slight step backwards so that he gets the second part of his E is able to be activated. But Klexo going in.
Oh, Klexo going to be getting picked up here as Doubtful is getting jumped onto by Black Dog. He's going to be looking to get the stun here, but they're separating so nicely, not able to have that done. But Doubtful going to go down for Black Dog, getting himself back in the game here with his first kill.
Yeah, there we go. Nice little pickup on the top side. And, you know, the LeBlanc thought that he was catching out the Morgana, but in fact, it was the rest of Silence that was catching out the LeBlanc here.
Deox getting some autos onto Azudo, but Azudo going to turn off targetability. Senna can just say no to that.
Both of these AD carries rocking the cleanse here, and I really don't blame them at all. Ashe Lux is a lethal combo in the bot lane, and with the Morgana not there to support with the Black Shield in lane, necessarily, definitely the cleanse is the best option. Obviously, as we get later and later, you have to imagine that those Black Shields could be expended on the center if you're expecting the team fights to be, you know, centered around this masterpiece of an AD carry, which is all that Silence have got here. But the Ashe as well with that cleanse doesn't help you versus the Skarner ulti, but there's still so much to get rid of. Morgana, Senna, and Shen all having things that you can easily cleanse out of and get yourself to safety with.
Yeah, and Klexo going to be the first person on Akuma this game to pay the Skarner tax and pick up that Quicksilver Sash. It's going to be important to keep that in mind as a benefit that the Skarner in your draft actually does bring to your team. You know, now Banky Kang not going to be able to land those ultimates onto Klexo, but that's 1,300 gold that Klexo could have been putting towards damaging LeBlanc items that is instead going towards magic resist and an active to protect you from Skarner.
Exactly, and you know, that's a brilliant point that you've made because we look at the gold lead right now. It's about 3,000 gold, but then you think about the fact that this is Morgana. Oh, okay, binding bot.
That's going to be a nice slow into a nice dark binding, but not enough follow-up damage after that. Deox can just shoot you from auto range and going to be out-damaging the Morgana based on that alone. Dark Soil, not enough.
Felt like it was going to be a little bit of an all-in from the Morgana right there after that binding landed, but just not quite fully convinced. Didn't want to go for
Doubtful, going for the flank, but going to be dodged out on. Meanwhile, just going to try to take control of this topside jungle.
Yeah, and this Renekton Nidalee combo, I keep saying Renekton Elise just because it's so ingrained in my brain at this point, but the Renekton Nidalee combination here, just roaming around the jungle, doing exactly what they need to, and exactly what they want to do, really. Roaming around picking up vision. They don't have the full support of the team to translate it into anything else. You see, nice binding connecting
Another
here.
nice binding out of Mad Show. Mad Show's been very on point with these bindings this game. Got to at least give him that.
Yeah, at least down in this bot lane, definitely has been hitting what he needs to hit, and the GLP pickup for him is going to make, you know, setting up for the plays even easier for him. Klexo here just trying to bait out that Black Shield, because if the Black Shield is down, Morgana is incredibly vulnerable, and LeBlanc with the distortions has no problem dodging away from one Dark Binding and then using 2 chains to keep the Morgana in place.
And Doubtful might as well put up some tent poles up here in the red side jungle of his opponent. He's just trying to keep Banky Kang out of his red jungle for as long as possible. Going to try to take absolute control there in time for the Scuttle to spawn. The Rift Herald going to be spawning soon after that. Just taking absolute control over this side of the jungle.
Exactly, and there's going to be a slight discrepancy in the respawn timers of these neutral objectives. Obviously the Infernal Drake spawning soon. Here comes the GLP.
Yeah, it's going to be another binding. Nice blink back from Klexo there to avoid getting bound, but is just going to get hit with the Soul Shackles. Just W's away, no big deal. Low mana for Mad Show, not going to be able to follow this up. But Banky Kang looking for the dive here, going in onto them. Does he get fooled by the passive? It looks like no. Klexo going to be able to dash away, going to get picked up by the Dawning Shadow, but is able to survive.
Yeah, not quite enough damage on this Senna yet. Still only 1.5 items and doesn't have the Mana Immune completed into the Mura Mana just yet. So that's a few resources expended. No Dawning Shadow, no Soul Shackles for this upcoming fight. Black Dog.
Yeah, that's going to be the desync here that's not being really taken advantage of. You know, they set up all this for the top lane, but now they just need to be in bot lane in time for this Infernal Drake to spawn. This is Dragon number 3. Each team wants to get off to an early lead towards this Soul, and it's going to be Akuma using their gold lead to just try to take some advantage in this bot side. It looks like Omega Gaming cannot get in. Black Dog waiting for the engage here, but he's actually so squishy. He's so behind. That's going to be Enchanted Crystal Arrow landed onto Van Hito. Van Hito looking to try to pick up some more. Klexo dealing as much damage as possible. Klexo picks up Azudo, but is possibly going to be taken down on the other side, but no, he blinks back and escapes. Batsuit now running through the opposing team as 2 more members of Omega Gaming fall in a double kill for Batsuit and a 1-fight 3-for-0 in favor of Akuma.
Yeah, this is the composition that Silence had drafted, and we sort of see the flaws of it coming through here. The LeBlanc stood in the front line for a considerable portion of time, and pretty much definitely the Senna was piling into it. The Morgana tried as well.
Oh, but Black Dog going in here, going to be trying to do an engage on a Klexo here, but he's so behind. He's actually taking so much damage. He has no tankiness, but that Klexo going to be taking up some turret shots as they just both back away. But Klexo going in for the kill, going to be superplexed right back, 1-for-1. Shut down. Earned by Black Dog.
Yeah, the QSS coming through to break away from the face breaker. Banky Kang has Predator.
Banky Kang going to be going in for an engage here on Asoli, gets the stun down, is going to be followed up by the snare, but flashed away from, flashes in turn, going to be suppressed, pulled back into the team, picked up by Azudo. Now the rest of the team is here to defend them. They have no more Skarner ultimate available. Going to be Slows coming down as Doubtful is trying to pick up onto Azudo, but he flashes backwards. Now Azudo is going to be trying to pour in the damage as Doubtful is forced into the zone. As Doubtful comes back out and is now looking for Mad Show. Mad Show has to flash away, but Doubtful has a flash of his own, is looking to pick up Madsup. Madsup goes down here. Now Banky Kang going to be mushing down onto Batsup and Deox. Deox and Batsup going to be just covering for their jungler as they back out of the fight and take what they can get.
Yeah, and Black Dog goes for the turret here, but Renekton and Nidalee are on the way down through the river. He has to know this is going to be dangerous. Has the TP, he's looking for recall instead.
Yeah, we're going to see if they're going to find him out here. They have found Vac Dog. Doubtful going to just be throwing a spear here, keeping him as long as possible, as meanwhile the Rift Herald is going to be taking away his turret. Black Dog has nowhere to go now. There's a Renekton farther back in his lane. There's Klexo right in front of him, and he's just going to pick him up.
Yeah, and this Rift Herald going to take the bot tier 1, going to stab into the top bot tier 2 as well, rather. And that's, overall, it was a 2-for-1 across the map right there. Maybe a 2-for-2 if you count the LeBlanc fight in the bot side, which happened way earlier. But a 1-for-1 in the mid lane, and then, you know, a pick-up in the bot lane either side of the play. So overall, kills traded back evenly, but the objective prior to that going the way of Akuma. And, you know, this sort of skirmishing has been going on for so long. We're now back to, you know, half of the Drake respawn time and going away. And that team fight really just showcasing the highlight and strength of this Renekton, able to dash in, dash back out. At this point, 4-0-2, there's not enough damage across Silence to take down this Renekton through Dominus. And this is going to be a flaw that we've seen with the composition until Azuto is able to pick up another couple of items and that upgraded Mana Immune.
Yeah, and just a general issue, we can see that even when the Impales landed onto a squishy target, even when excuse me, you're able to pull their opponent back into your team with Skarner, even when you're able to burst out a target like that Lux. It isn't enough to win you the fight on your own. You still have to win the 5v4 follow-up now without Skarner ult having access to, and it's just much harder for them to get those picks because of their low damage.
For sure, and now Azuto, arrow up mid lane.
Oli going to be looking to snare here. Batsup coming in on the flank. He flashes forward. He gets the stun, followed by the final flash across Azuto. Azuto is going to be staying alive, though, as Batsup might have driven a little bit too far here. Gets shut down by Black Dog. And Omega Gaming has a little bit of fight left in them.
Yeah, and that's the pick potential that they have, right? They don't need to be able to burst through 5 members if they isolate one person, especially under a turret as well. That was through Dominus, and the way Black Dog just walks in, uses the Blade of the Ruin King active to secure himself that 700 gold bounty, puts himself right back into contention in this game. Still down a lot of CS, and probably down a little bit in experience as well, especially in items. But, you know, 700 gold
isolating a target is
good.
supposed to be hard. But Batsup doing all the work for him as he just dives in a little bit too far there, trying to get this kill onto Azuto, isn't able to quite get enough damage through post-flash, and just gets melted down by the remainder of the team.
Exactly, and really well played from the Silent Squad to layer the rest of the CC. The Senna route came through on top of the Morgana with the Black Shield and the Dark Binding as well under the turret. So many of these, you know, small pick abilities landing, and it's quite difficult sometimes to, you know, synchronize pulling through or hitting the CC in tandem with the Skarner pull if the Skarner's trying to pull them away from your trajectory. But obviously all the skill shots landing and the pick goes through. Got 12 seconds now on this Infernal Dragon. Neither team has 5 members around the pit just yet. Macho coming from the jungle and Batsup up on the top lane.
Going to be dodging out of some skill shots here as Banky Kang is looking to try get an impale onto a target. As they're grouping around for this dragon, they know that it's important to keep their opponents off of soul points, so they are going to be trying to achieve that on Omega Gaming's side. Meanwhile, of course, it's going to be Akuma looking to see if they can steal away this dragon as a teleport is coming in from Batsup. Batsup coming right over the wall, immediately onto the AD carry of the opposing team. 2 targets are down almost instantly. Banky Kang has nothing left he can do. He has no team to CC for. Black Dog going to be melted down next, as it might be a clean ace as Quexo is chasing down Banhito here. You got to assume he'll be able to pick it up. Maybe not as he dashes away, but no, it's going to be followed up. Max range chain, beautifully done there by Quexo as the dragon is picked up by his team, and as his team wins a clean 5-0 ace.
It just herding lambs to the slaughter right there. Akuma with 2 members topside river, Nidalee on the tri-bush, LeBlanc coming from the blue buff of their of Omega, and then a teleport ward behind. Just absolutely all angles cut off by Akuma. They 5-man collapse as a unit, you know, not giving any isolation to Akuma to go for. Shen still has ulti, Senna still has ulti, and they were just absolutely blown up before anything could even happen in that team fight. Near flawless team fighting by Akuma in that instance. They're going to get themselves the Baron, they're going to put themselves on soul point, and cement themselves as the dominant team in this series.
No, you cannot Black Shield the Renekton damage. You can only Black Shield the CC. So what are you going to do when Batsup comes for you and you have no opportunities to actually get out? You have no mobility abilities. Azuto still had the flash available, but before the Renekton stun was even done, he was already dead. No opportunity to flash from anything.
And the thing that you have to think about in that teamfight instance is, where was he supposed to flash to? If he goes down, Nidalee's there, and LeBlanc.
Oh, and that's going to be LeBlanc coming out, trying to pick up Azuto once again. They recognize that this is the only threat to them, and they are trying to shut it down as effectively as they possibly can. Going to be forced into a recall situation yet again as they're pounding on mid-inner turret. Here comes an Enchanted Crystal Arrow, going to be going a little bit wide, followed up by a Skarner ultimate on the other side. Both sides looking for picks, but neither side particularly succeeding as the mid-turret goes down to Akuma.
Look at Akuma's inventory. Who is Skarner supposed to ulti?
Oh, no. Oh, what a disaster. Everybody's paid the Skarner tax. Everyone can afford to pay their taxes plus extra this year because of how advantaged Akuma has become. Banky Kang gotta feel pretty useless at this point. You know, you've done your job. Every member of the opposing team has already spent their money trying to counter you, but that money advantage isn't equal to the gold lead. It's not even close.
No, exactly. You know, 5 times 1,300 is 6,500, and they're more than 10,000 gold ahead at this point. There's more than enough gold in the inventory. The war chest is big enough for Akuma to pay this Skarner tax, and they're just terroring through Omega Gaming silences base. 2 inhibitor turrets down. Top lane inhibitor under fire. Azuto doing his best to defend, but Deox is going to get mid lane. They're going to walk to top lane, get that one as well. And it depends, do they want to end the game or do they want to maybe play this flawlessly, go for the perfect
They're going to
game?
play it absolutely safely. They're going to move back and just try to regroup and be prepared for the rest of the objectives to spawn. Not going to risk over pushing into the opposing team's base. But this is going to be the 3-0 Omega Gaming Silence. Really pushed to their limit here. They are down 0-1 in this series. The series will be over if they lose this game, and they are at an incredible deficit.
Exactly, and I don't see a way that Silence are able to come back into this game. The wave clear versus Baron is not there for them. They're relying on Senna Q and Morgana soil to do the work, but that's just not enough. Not enough wave clear versus these super minions versus the bot lane seeds that's going to come through any minute. Bat-Soup though, you could be in trouble.
Bat-Soup going to be in a one-on-one with Black Dog, but here comes Azuto trying to make the difference as well as they're able to shut down Bat-Soup. Black Dog still has access to damage. He has the Triforce, the Blade of the Ruin King. He has Azuto there supporting him with the damage, with the Piercing Darknesses, and not a lot of tank stats on Bat-Soup. He is still vulnerable to be being picked like that.
Exactly, and you know, let's not forget that Silence commit 3 ultimates to that play. There's now going to be about a minute where those ultimates aren't off cooldown, and I think even in a 5 versus 4 situation, there's definitely a world where Akuma can take a fight. Wouldn't suggest them doing that, but you can see that all of the resources committed top lane, and all of these super minions that are going into the base via top and mid lane, means that Klexo is just able to walk on in and take a bot tier 2 as well. There's so much action generated across the map by, you know, just Renekton pressure or LeBlanc side lane pressure that Akuma are getting things done everywhere on the map. We've got 40 seconds on this Infernal
already
trade.
back up, going to have this teleport in a second, and going to have it in time for the Dragon for sure. There's already that small advantage being neutralized as Bat-Soup is able to be anywhere on the map that he needs to be. It's all going to come down to this Dragon spawning in about 25 seconds. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, and if you are Omega Gaming Silence here, leaving your base is so dangerous because of all of these super minions pushing in. But if you don't leave your base, then you're just giving up Infernal Soul, and an Infernal Soul on all of these members drafted by Akuma is going to be absolutely lethal. They all deal so much damage, you know, maybe sparing the Lux who's gone for a supportive Athene's build, but, you know, just giving
And they're sacrificing it. They are not even going to contest. They're going to try to look for a pick in the top side, but that's unlikely to work out. It's going to be Infernal Soul going over to Akuma.
And now Akuma can collapse. Here comes the arrow.
That's going to be Enchanted Crystal Arrow, perfectly aimed right onto Azuto, forces the cleanse out, but it's the rest of the team coming in for the collapse. The LeBlanc damage onto Azuto, managing to almost burst him out entirely, but he does carefully stay alive. Here comes the Skarner following up to run interference for his 80 carry, as everybody, all the carries are forced to flash away. Mad Show Gap uses the ultimate, but flashes away immediately. Nobody goes down, but it's Akuma knocking on the doors of the base, knocking on the Nexus turrets, going to be looking to end this game, as Akuma needs to defend here as they're going to lose their bot inhibitor.
Yeah, and look at the side lane pressure. The side waves have been prepped perfectly for this push. What a spear!
3 inhibitors. Here we go. The LeBlanc is on to the backside, picks up Azuto right away, and that's going to be the fight. Banky Kang gets bursted down as well. They're going on to Deox. They do manage to pick him up with Black Dog's damage, but Black Dog follows soon after. Meanwhile, Bat-Soup just 1v2ing the remaining members of Omega Esports on the other side. That's a binding going to be able to be cleansed away from by the Nidalee incredibly quickly. Deox is the only member down. They're going to be able to tear through this Nexus. They're going to be able to take the series 3-0. Omega Gaming is 3-0 no longer, as Akuma Katanas are able to take the match in a convincing 2-0. They're going to maybe greed out for a couple of kills here, but certainly it's going to go down. There's so many minions here. That's going to be it.
What a wonderful series to watch, honestly. Game 1 so back and forth, and Game 2 was a near masterpiece on how to play. Just Renekton Nidalee and then LeBlanc into a supposed counter matchup as well. Really just a pleasure to watch, delight to see here. Akuma definitely stepping up. That was a wonderful game to see. Really nice stuff. And that end game,
absolutely.
That end game push as well was just so formidable here. You know, 5 QSSs, you saw them dancing around the Nexus turrets. Macho is hitting binding after binding, but it was on different people every single time, and they all just got hit by a binding and go, oh, Skarn attacks. Guess this works for Morgana as well. I'll just pop this and I'll run away real nice, real easy. It's so easy for the rest of Akuma to just keep themselves safe here. If we just take a quick look at these damage charts here, it just speaks for itself that the set, who was set so far behind in lane, was doing the most damage in this game.
Yeah,
For
really do
Omega,
have
that
to give
is.
some props over to Black Dog. Definitely getting the tilt-proof honor for this game, if nothing else. You know, he's put so far behind early, but he did manage to hold Batsup for the entirety of the game to that 40 CS lead that he developed earlier. Was able to stop the bleeding, was able to stabilize and prevent that lead from getting any worse. And clearly, that was incredibly necessary, as this set appears to be intended to be one of the major damage sources for this team. He did the most damage of anybody else on the team. He had the most gold. He was building and itemizing into the Blade of the Ruin King and the Triforce. Didn't end up being enough at the end, but good on Black Dog for managing to still fulfill his role, even as he was set behind early.
Exactly, and this just shows that even in these games that are looking pretty rough for you, that you can still have shining moments, right? You can still do the best. You still have to play to the best of your abilities, and with the set behind that Black Dog was at, take away the 0-3 start, he actually went positive post laning phase, we'll say, and obviously that doesn't mean too much at the end when they're Akuma just absolutely terrorize the rest of the map and don't give you any single into a team fight. But definitely bright spots for Silence to look at, and a lot of things to learn from, nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely a great series. Maybe not the result we expected going in, but definitely going to be an interesting group going farther in this Risen Divine League coming into week 5 up ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I mean, if that's everything we've got for everybody, then I'm gonna, take the time, Gordo, to thank you once again for being on the cast with us. Thanks to everybody at home for being brilliant, supporting the stream, supporting Omega, supporting Akuma as well. Don't forget, this was obviously a two teams to tango situation. We will be back tomorrow. I believe myself and Ivar taking you through the LHGPL Omega Gaming Syndicate in a best of 3 tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. EST. Don't want to miss that. And do you want to take us away?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for tuning in, and be sure to tune in tomorrow. As Rudude said, thank you all for staying tuned.